reading. We'll have a pledge by myself. So if you will please rise and address the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will move the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. There will be no special presentations tonight. First order of business is ordinance on final reading. Madam Clerk, will you please read 5A, please?
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 16, Sections 1659 through 1666, to create the Police Advisory and Review Committee.
It's been moved by and properly second by Councilman Byrd. All in favor with the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. 5B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 26, Section 26.3, relating to operation of vehicles in parks, Chapter 26, Section 26.4, relating to reckless speeds, Chapter 24, Section 24.33, relating to overtaking and passing of vehicles proceeding in the same direction, and Chapter 24, Sections 24.5.11 through 24.5.23, to establish rules and regulations relating to the operation of the regulation of dockless small vehicle sharing programs.
Council, what's your pleasure? Okay.
Was there a meeting supposed to happen today?
Yeah, we can make that, but first I need a motion for approval. Councilman Byrd. Go ahead. Hit your button again, sir.
I'm good.
Okay. What's your pleasure? No, I'm just looking around. Okay, a motion dies for lack of excuse me, y'all, this thing dies for lack of a motion. All right. That's it. Okay, we'll move on. Now we'll have ordinances on first reading. 6A, please, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of property located at 400 Birmingham Highway, more particularly described herein from M1 Manufacturing Zone to M2 Light Industrial Zone.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition? Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've heard no opposition to this, so I move for approval.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second by Councilman Ledford. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1514 Shelby Circle, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone and R4 special zone to R3 residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman, okay. Councilman, what's your pleasure? Okay, yeah. Is the applicant here? Okay. Is there any opposition? Okay. Let's read the, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody else.
Hey, Mr. Bridger, please.
Yes, sir.
If you'll honor us this evening.
I'd be happy to. If I get the power or the PDF put up, please. Okay. Just need to max it out if you don't mind. Yeah. Thank you. All righty. Okay. This is a request to rezone property on 1514 Shelby Circle from R4 and R1 residential to R4 residential zone for a 38-unit development. As you can see on this map, the property is located at 1514 Shelby Circle at the corner of Middle Valley Road and Lower Mill Road. It lies adjacent to the Valley Brook subdivision to the east. You also have single family to the south. You have some townhomes to the north, and you do have a commercial development to the northwest. Here are some pictures of the site. You see upper right is looking into the site. Left, you see looking down Middle Valley Road. To the lower left, you see the townhomes across the street. And the lower right, you see the commercial development on the northwest corner. This is a zoning map showing the current zoning of the site. Part of it's zoned R4. The back or the eastern portion is zoned R1. You do have the corner at zone C2, and you've got RT1 zoning across the street to the north. There is some zoning history with this property. In 1984, it was rezoned, actually there's a request to rezone to C2, which was denied, but they did grant approval for a portion of the site to be rezoned to R4. And then to the north, that townhouse development was rezoned from C2 to R1 to RT1 for a townhouse development. Looking at in terms of flooding, it's adjacent to the floodplain, but not in the floodplain based on our GIS maps. If you look at the site plan indicates access coming off of Middle Valley Road. Again, not Shelby Circle, but Middle Valley Road, with 3 buildings, with a total number of units of 38 units. They're showing a dumpster that would be located near Shelby Circle, and showing your typical buffer yard required by landscaping regs, which would be 10 foot along the eastern boundary. And looking at the plan recommendations for this site, the Hickson North River Land Use Plan recommends single unit residential and light business mix. Again, zooming in on this particular location, you can see it shows the corner being a light business mix, but the rear being single family residential. Staff, as you know, looking at a particular site or request, will look at the plan recommendations, but also the zoning pattern for an area and its location relative to the road infrastructure. Given that you've got RT1 across the street to the north and you've got commercial on the northwest corner, staff did not have issues with the proposed use. We have more concerns about the zone, the R4 zone, because it allows things other than apartments, including hospitals, laboratories, and colleges, which would not be appropriate for this location. So we recommended to deny the R4 zone, but to approve R3 residential zone subject to conditions to be sure that we have good transition between this development and the abutting adjacent R1 residential development. So we recommended capping the number of units to 38 units, limiting the height to no more than 2.5 stories or 35 feet. A dumpster that would be, again, as shown on the site plan, will be located along the north property line along Shelby Circle and a minimum of 70 feet away from that eastern property line. And we actually recommend a little more extensive landscaping buffer on the east, a type B, which would increase that from 10 feet, as was shown on the site plan, to 20 feet to encourage more buffering across those adjacent single family to the rear. At Planning Commission, there was opposition. I'm going to clarify that note in a minute once we get through it. There was no opposition at Planning Commission, but after hearing from the staff's recommendation and comments from the applicant, the Planning Commission recommended staff's approval with conditions with the exception of the buffer. Since that Planning Commission meeting, several residents contacted RPA and said they were not notified and did not know what had happened, and so we notified the council district rep, and the council district rep and recommended the applicant meet with the residents. And I know there's been a couple of conversations. I'm not sure it's been resolved yet, but I know there's been some ongoing communication between the applicant and the residents, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Hey, John, real quick, before we hear from the applicant, you mentioned with the exception of the buffer. What was it about the buffer? Was there a reduction in the recommended buffer?
Yeah, the Planning Commission, I think essentially the applicant noted they would like to retain the 10 feet so they can have that sidewalk access to the properties, as you see, is noted to the, for the right-hand side of the corner and the lower hand. If you increase it to 20 feet, they would not be able to have that sidewalk access to those units. So it was basically going to impact their capacity to how they access the unit. So they would have to basically modify their site design to accommodate a larger buffer.
Was there a larger buffer originally, and then the smaller buffer was
No, this
requested,
was
or
kind
that
of, basically the applicant had indicated in their site plan a 10-foot buffer. Staff wanted a larger buffer. Then Planning Commission basically concurred with the applicant wanting to do a 10-foot buffer as required by the code,
What was suggested by staff?
a 20-foot buffer.
Full 20 foot all the way around?
Yes, at least where it butts residential, yes.
Okay. And then, do you happen to have, I don't remember offhand, how much of this was R4 and how much was R1?
Sure.
Was it?
You can see about a third of the site is R4, and about two-thirds is R1.
Okay. You don't know the actual size, do you, John?
Actually, I do. I happen to, 28,000 square feet, approximately, roughly about, yeah, a little less than a half acre, or right at a half acre, I should say.
Okay, great. Mr. Chair, would it be all right if we hear from the applicant at this time?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
It's-
Good evening. I'm Justin Turton with Chasen Engineering. I apologize, we actually just moved offices, so my new address is 1426 William Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I apologize for that. Mr. Bridger has done an exemplary job presenting what our project is. As he noted, there was an opposition at Planning Commission. We originally did ask for a reduction in the 20-foot buffer that staff was recommending. The reason for this is the buildings themselves will all be 20 feet back. That'll be the setback requirement. But as we noted in our plan is that we prefer to have a more townhouse-looking style development, which means that we would need to have our doors on opposite sides to accommodate that in our building structure, and prefer to have a sidewalk entrance. And that sidewalk would not be allowed in a type B buffer. And that's the reason we asked to reduce that. We would still be required to have the 10-foot full landscape buffer, plus our buildings would be required to be 20 foot back. Since Planning Commission, we did hear that there was opposition, and we have reached out and talked to several of those people and several of those neighborhood associations and discussed some of the issues. Many of the issues, which you'll hear from opposition tonight, we've tried to address, but we can absolutely have conversations with them to further that addressment. Our access will be from Middle Valley Road as opposed to Shelby Circle in terms of traffic accessing. We are proposing those conditions, the conditions that are provided meet already what we were proposing in our plan, limiting to a two-story building to fit more in line to the multifamily that's across the street. R4 is a zone that does allow for commercial uses, and we absolutely agree. Our thought process was, since R4 was already there, just to extend the existing zone, and reducing it to R3 makes sense with us as well. I'd be happy to go into more detail, but I'd be happy to also field questions on your behalf and then allow you to hear from opposition.
I have no questions yet, Mr. Chair, until I hear from opposition.
Sure.
But can we make sure that we get a clock up so that everybody does have equal and fair time, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Justin.
You get the timer on, please. Okay.
We'll need 9 minutes on
Yeah.
that timer for opposition. There we go. Please, sorry, Mr. Chair, go ahead.
No, please do. Yeah, it's your district, yeah.
There'll be 9 minutes total, so for however many of you
Okay,
that
I'm
would
gonna
like
try
to
be
speak.
quick. My name is Deborah Miller, and I actually live on Shelby Circle, but what I call the other Shelby Circle, which is down a little bit. My concern about this is we're talking about 38 units on 2.6 acres. So can think of that. And I heard you say that there'd be 2 stories, but then on something else I saw here, it said it was going to be 2.5 stories. So high. Another concern I have is parking. If there's 38 units, that means there's probably going to be 76, if not more, cars. Do we have enough space for that? Is there enough space for handicap parking? Traffic is terrible at that intersection of Lower Mill Road, Middle Valley Road, and Shelby Circle. It's, horrendous. Then, so I'm just concerned about the traffic, and could we possibly get a traffic light there if we're going to have now 70 more cars coming and going in that intersection? The one that's across the street, the big commercial area, is Goodale's Garage, which, and also there is a children's center, a daycare center there, right on down Middle Valley Road. A concern I have is, are there going to be rules and regulations for the tenants that live here? Will they be allowed to have boats parked out here, RVs or anything else like that? What about sidewalks? We don't have sidewalks now going down Middle Valley Road. We don't have sidewalks on Shelby Circle. One thing I heard was that the anticipation is that these will be older people, maybe us baby boomers as we age, moving into these apartments. Okay, if it's 2 levels, that means we need an elevator every place because, I mean, my knees are bad already, so if I'm going to be moving in here, I need an elevator to get me up there. I'm also concerned about the water retention and what is that going to mean with respect to mosquitoes and everything that's coming on. Let's see. The sewer, I know there's already a sewer there, but is there going to be extra sewer capacity? What is going to be done for that? And then mostly for me, I'm concerned about my own property value. You know, now having, you know, those have always just been open space, and now all at once we're going to have these 38 units on these 2.5 acres. So what's that going to do to my property value? And that's all I wanted to, that's the only time I want to take right now, but I please say don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
I'm Terry Grisham. I came and spoke last week for 3 minutes, so now I get 6.16. I'm here representing, and I can't say anything that fast. We have 115 people from Shelby Circle and Valley Brook community, Winbrook, that have voted against this. And I sent you all Sunday night a memo or a letter, and then today I sent you a PDF of all of the petition, everyone that signed. Valley Brook's the closest property owner to this proposed development, and we think it'll impact us the most. We believe that the property is too small to support a development of this size. We have a bad traffic situation on Shelby Circle, Middle Valley Road, and Valley Brook, where they all come together at that intersection. The installation of buildings, driveways, and hard concrete will eliminate the land which now serves to help control rainwater and flooding and greatly increase surface flooding on the existing roads. There's just not enough space, in our opinion, for that type of 3 units. Building the apartment complex is introducing another level of hazardous conditions off Middle Valley Road that we believe are unnecessary. We have 4 primary categories that we're concerned about: the physical endangerment of people due to the increased traffic. There will be 38 to 76 additional cars. We're a community of some elderly people and middle-aged people and people with strollers and babies, elementary school kids. And so we're kind of in a transition, and we need sidewalks, we need a traffic light there if we're going to put something like this in. I was encouraged in talking with one of the representatives that they may be possibly targeting some of the baby boomers that want to downsize, so that might be a good idea because there are some concerns about the property value also. And then the age-old Valley Brook drainage water control issue and property damage, because a lot of Valley Brook's water comes across this property that is proposed. I guess that's about it.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Grisham.
Thank you.
Sure. Another 3.5 minutes. Anybody else?
Okay, the applicant now has 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. And I also want to say thank you to the opposition. We've had continuous conversations, and we've been very grateful to that. They've been willing to continue those conversations. There were a couple of comments about traffic, sewer, stormwater, issues with height and parking, and these are all issues that we hope to continue work. And I would respectfully ask to have a deferral for 4 weeks so that we can continue to work with these communities and hopefully come up with a resolution that works for everybody.
Good.
Councilman
Chairman,
Smith?
may I?
You
Thank
have
you,
the
sir.
floor.
The concerns that I've heard from the residents, and I've heard from many, I imagine quite a few that were on those petitions, I fully understand, especially the one about not just necessarily water retention, but what it does for stormwater in general. And Mr. Turson, whether it's you or not, you're definitely going to end up in this case, regardless of what happens on this site, kind of being a victim of bad development in the past. There are cases where another residential neighborhood was built right on the edge of Valley Brook, and I've stood in the yard of one of the residents that now has a creek running through their yard just from stormwater flow that was not properly addressed by a previous developer. So I fully understand where these issues are coming from and the concerns of a lot of the residents, because regardless of best efforts, there definitely seems to be a significant impact, specifically in the Valley Brook area where it comes to water. Hey, John, real quick on the traffic question, was any kind of discussion given, CDOT or anything else regarding traffic in this area? Was there any opinion given?
We didn't have any concerns communicated us from CDOT. I know one of the key aspects was, accessing on Middle Valley as opposed to Shelby Circle to mitigate any other congestion at that particular location. But we did not get any comments in terms of concerns from our CDOT partners in terms of there being an issue with traffic.
Okay. Hey, Blythe, do you mind if I pose that question to you? I know it's kind of on the spot right at the moment, but are you familiar with any issues out in this area that would cause any additional traffic issues? I mean, I know the road very well, and especially there's a lot of people that like to take it a little quick because it's treated more like a back road. But are you familiar with anything out in this area, Middle Valley and Shelby, that would create the need for something as significant as a traffic light or any kind of speed calming through this area? I know it's a primary road, so probably not, but I'd like your opinion on that.
Short answer is no. We've not. We review all these cases with RPA, and typically, if the zoning allows for the development, our reasoning is that the infrastructure can handle it because the zoning is supposed to support the growth and the land use. That's not to say there's not acute issues here. I suspect the intersection with the traffic volumes could use some safety. As you allude to, it's hard to do that on a collector. I would assume this is a collector road, which means it carries a lot of traffic. We would typically get involved at a detail level when they submitted for a land disturbing permit.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Blythe. I appreciate it. Mr. Turson, you said you're requesting a 4-week deferral. In that amount of time, have you made attempts to contact a lot of the residents, or even I know you said you've spoken to some, but it was after you went to RPA, which there was no opposition, oddly enough, in that case. But have you made attempts to try to meet with the community after that?
Yes, we have reached out to neighborhood presidents and vice presidents based on the contact information the city provided us, and we did hear from a couple of them, and we did have conversations with them. We did offer to meet at their scheduled time meetings, or even at a special meeting to meet with them so that we could get a better understanding. Most of them told us over the phone, particularly one neighborhood was more vocal than all the rest in terms of what their concerns were, and we've continued to try to work with those communities that we have heard from.
Okay. Let me ask this question then. Of those here in opposition, clearly didn't even know about this or didn't realize it because there was no opposition at RPA, and considering the number of emails and phone calls I've gotten, I find that quite odd. So since no meeting was had, I believe there's probably a lot more citizens that have concerns that haven't been voiced on this issue. Mr. Chair, I'm going to grant the request for a 4-week deferral, and I would like to make sure that the neighborhood is involved and when we put together a meeting so that everybody can voice their concerns and fully understand what's being presented. And at the end of that, that's when we'll decide exactly what needs to take place. And Mr. Turson, if it is what it is and there's just no way to work it out, we're gonna have to move to some other kind of plan for that piece of property. But I also want people to understand there's a section of this property that's R4, which could be developed in a much more significant way as well. And I think people need to understand fully that what's being requested may not be the worst thing that could happen, but it may not also be the best thing. And I'd like everybody to have an opportunity to voice those opinions. Ms. Grisham, you helped put a lot of this work together with the petition and working with a lot of the neighbors. Would you be willing to work with me to help put together a meeting and invite everybody so that they can voice their opinion and ask these kinds of questions? And then we'll just kind of take it from there at the point this comes back on the agenda? Come on up if you have something to add, please.
I think that's a great idea, and I would suggest that we include Shelby Circle people.
Sure.
And not just Valley Brook and Winbrook. But I wanted to ask about has a traffic study been done? I know he spoke a little bit about the traffic, but that's something that was very important to us, and I think I failed to mention that.
It has not been done based on, that was the reason I asked the question
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And based on, as Mr. Bailey that was up here as the director of CDOT, based on his answer, they take into consideration the zoning in the area. And if it's not a significant change of what's currently there, which it feels like it, but it's not, they wouldn't do the study.
Yeah.
But that is a valid question. And once we get a meeting set, I'm going to invite Mr. Bailey to come and explain
that'd
how
be
that would
good.
work.
Because that is a cut, Middle Valley to Shelby Circle and Valley Brook Road is a cut-through street to get through fast, to
Yep.
avoid wrecks and all that if you've driven in Hickson.
It's also a
And-
road used very heavily by high school students.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Familiar with light changes out there,
And
too.
they're new drivers, and it's scary for everybody, for the moms. We really need sidewalks and a traffic light. I
Okay.
know that's kind of pricey, but that's what we need.
I fully understand, Mr. Grimm. Thank you very much, and your willingness to put this together.
Hey, Councilman Smith, if I may, our next council meeting where we address zoning matters would be June the 11th. Would that be appropriate, sir?
How many weeks out is that, Mr. Chair? Is that about?
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's whatever your pleasure, but that's the next
Yeah,
time.
that'll work. Yeah, let's do
Okay.
that, if that's all right, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm going to make that in the form of a motion, ma'am. I'm sorry, we passed it, but find me after, and I'd love to hear your comments at that time. Is that okay?
We're not a part of this owner association, we're individual homeowners,
Okay.
and we do not have an association, nobody's not with us.
I'll make sure I do.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, with that being
You'll be there.
said, it's been
Mr. Chair,
moved.
that is a motion to defer this to June 11.
Sure, and it's been properly seconded by Vice Chair Henderson. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes nay. Item deferred till June the 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you
Madam
all.
Clerk, C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 2705 East 44th Street, and more particularly described herein from R2 residential zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant here? Is there any opposition? Okay. Yeah, yes, it is. Okay. Councilman Ledford, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. This is in your district. With your permission, I will move to approve.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes nay. Motion carries. D, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 2103 and 2107 Vance Avenue, more particularly described herein from RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone to R3 residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition? No opposition. Councilwoman Coonrod, what's your pleasure? It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Byrd. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. E, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, Article 5, zoning regulations, Division 8, residential zone, Section 38, 114, height and area regulations.
Council, what's your pleasure? It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Ledford. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposers, nay. Motion's carried. Now we'll move on to resolutions. Madam Clerk, 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of a portion of the Riverwalk identified as 750 Latitude Circle, tax map number 135NA005 by quitclaim deed in substantially the form attached from Cameron Harbor LLC.
Councilman Henderson, followed by Councilman Ledford.
I yield to Councilman Ledford if, Mr. Chairman, this is in your district. With your permission, I'll move approval.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Ledford. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Motion carries. B, please.
A resolution declaring surplus of 3 properties located at 2005, 2007, and 2009 Milne Street, further identified as tax parcel numbers 146G020, 146CG019, and 146CG018.
We have Councilman Byrd, followed by Councilwoman Coonrod. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Coonrod. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposers, nay. Motion carries. C, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the city treasurer to renew blanket purchase order number 532669 for merchant card services with FIS Link to Gov for 12 months through June 30, 2020, with no renewals remaining in the amount of $175,000.
Councilwoman Byrd.
Move approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Motion carries. D, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the appointment of Travis R. Kazmierzak as a special police officer unarmed for the mayor's office in the Department of Outdoor Chattanooga to do special duty as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Gilbert. Move to approve. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Byrd. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposers, nay. Motion carries. E, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the appointment of Philip Grimes as a special police officer unarmed for the mayor's office in the Department of Outdoor Chattanooga to do special duty as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Gilbert. Move to approve. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposers, nay. Motion carries. F, please.
A resolution authorizing an increase in expenditure limit for the existing contract with Carasoft Technology Corporation to provide Acela software licensing and support for each contract year beginning May 24, 2018 and ending May 23, 2019 from $199,718.68 for a total increase of $5,000 for a total amount of $204,718.68.
Councilman Ledford.
Move to approve.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Motion carries. G, please.
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for a residential planned unit development for property located at 5958 Dayton Boulevard, subject to certain conditions.
Vice Chairman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not a big fan of PUDs in our rural areas, but in this case, it's a tool that's being used to protect some steep slopes that's on the property, and because of that, I will move approval.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Ledford. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Motion carries. H, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to waive the green fee and cart rental at the Brainerd and Brown Acres golf courses for the Department of Public Works employees for one round at each golf course during Public Works Week on May 18 through May 26, 2019.
Councilwoman Burrs, followed by Councilman Gilbert.
Move approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Aye, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 final for Wright Brothers Construction Company, Inc., relative to contract number S09008201 North St. Elmo Storm Drainage Contract for the decreased amount of $803,984.07 to release the contingency amount of $1,500,000 for a revised contract amount of $14,351,829.10.
Councilman Ledford, followed by Vice Chairman Henderson.
Thank you, Chairman. I love to see a decreased amount on any project. Good work, Public Works. I move to approve.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. J, please.
A resolution authorizing the award of contract number E18017-201 to Williams Restoration and Waterproofing, Inc. of Laverne, Tennessee, City Hall and City Council buildings, exterior refurbishments in the amount of $295,986 with a contingency amount of $20,000 for a total amount of $315,986.
Councilman Byrd. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Gilbert. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. K, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into a blanket contract for professional services for the continuing on-call environmental consulting services for asbestos, lead, indoor air quality, and other environmental assessments, contract number E19002-301 for the 8 reference consultant firms for year 1 of a term up to 4 years, with this year's amount not to exceed $250,000.
Council, what's your pleasure? It's been moved by Councilman Mitchell, seconded by Councilman Ledford. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. L, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Transportation to enter into a partnership agreement with ECG Chestnut LP for Chestnut Flats located at 2108 Chestnut Street, project number T19004-804, and to accept a contribution of $19,757.84 towards the cost of 8 pedestrian light poles, luminaires, conduits, and installation.
Councilman Ledford, followed by Vice Chairman Henderson.
Thank you, Chairman. This is again in your district. With your approval, I move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. M, please.
A resolution authorizing the appointments of Tanya Salas, Sidney Zink, Jasmine Dagnan, and Ricky Mincy as Special Police Officers unarmed for the Chattanooga Area Regional Transportation Authority, Carter, to do special duties as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Vice Chairman Henderson.
Move for approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. N, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Youth and Family Development to apply for and, if approved, accept a one-time grant from the National Parks and Recreation Association for mobile play trailers in the amount of $20,000.
Councilwoman Coonrod, followed by Councilman Gilbert. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Gilbert. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to purchases. Good evening, Bonnie.
Good evening. The first 12 purchases we have tonight are on behalf of the Public Works Department, the first being an increase to the blanket contract for liquid sodium bisulfite which is awarded to Southern Ionics in a revised total estimated annual amount of $590,000. Next, the approval of payment of expired blanket contract invoices, which was previously awarded to NABCO Electric in a total payment $49,124.65. Next, a blanket contract renewal for tree planting services to be awarded to Mountain City Landscapes, Inc., in an estimated annual amount of $37,000. Next, two blanket contract renewals for equipment maintenance and repair to be awarded to first Chattanooga Tractor and Equipment, Inc., and second to Power Equipment Company in a total estimated annual amount of $413,000. Next, a blanket contract renewal for hand tools for local pickup to be awarded to Rolade Industrial Supply, Inc., in an estimated annual amount of $42,000. Next, a blanket contract renewal for alarm monitoring services and supplies to be awarded to Action Alarms of Chattanooga, Inc., in an estimated annual amount of $80,000. Next, a blanket contract renewal for Comet Vehicle Tracking System to be awarded to Axsoft, Inc., in an estimated annual amount of $225,000. Next, two new blanket contract renewals for liquid oxygen to be awarded to first Matheson Tri-Gas and second Airgas in a total estimated annual amount of $100,000. Next, a blanket contract renewal for flow meter instrumentation to be awarded to American Control Service LLC in an estimated annual amount of $250,000. Next, a new blanket renewal for manhole rehabilitation services to be awarded to Video Industrial Services in an estimated annual amount of $250,000. Next, a blanket contract renewal for vehicle rental to be awarded to Enterprise Holdings, Inc., an estimated annual amount of $200,000. Next, a new blanket contract for traffic safety materials, flashers, and barricades for rent and/or purchase to be awarded to A1 Barricades in an estimated annual amount of $110,000. And finally, the three blanket contract renewals for sign language interpretation services to be awarded to first Partnership for Families, Children, and Adults, second Chattanooga Interpreting LLC, and third LTC Language Solutions for a total estimated annual amount of $90,000.
Councilman Gilbert.
On PO 543534, dealing with the trees, is this for the entire city or just for certain areas?
Our blanket contracts are considered to be citywide.
Citywide, okay. The other one is dealing with tools. Did we ever get an answer more on the tools or even on the enterprise?
I can speak to the fact that our estimated spend is based on the prior year's spend. So as far as a dollar amount, it would be representative of what we spent the year before.
So, in other words, in 42,000 we spent on tools last year?
In general, for this contract, yes. It would be
Okay.
close to that.
Can I get last year and the year before that and see where's the still comparison? Because you're replacing tools, I mean, unless they're really clumsy, I can't see that, how you replacing tools all the time.
Well, unfortunately, I don't actually
understand
purchase the tools, so Public Works have to speak to that.
Hey, Justin up there.
Call it clumsy guy.
Hey, I just said it's kind of awkward.
So these are hand tools that are purchased for all 6 divisions, mainly things like shovels, wire cutters, anything that we have to provide our employees to perform work in the field. So that's approximately the right amount of money that we spend. We do have to replace tools as they wear, and I'm sure that we have a fair amount of tools that we break during the line of work.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, just if you can, for 2 years. How many tools you done purchased and
We'll be
broke?
able to provide that.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You still got the floor.
Yeah, I don't see, was Enterprise Rental on this? I remember saying Enterprise Rental, is it not included in this?
Its technical corporation name is listed on the list, yes. Enterprise Holdings,
Enterprise Holding for rental cars?
correct.
Tell me about that. I know we have our own fleet. How are we spending that much money on rentals?
It would be the same situation. It would be based on the prior year's spend.
Okay.
And as far as I know, I believe the city's fleet has been reduced.
Can we get the information on that too, for the last 2 years, for the fleet versus this? And how much money we have spent on rentals? And what
Specific
departments?
to this contract?
Ma'am?
Specific to this enterprise contract,
Right.
what was,
Right,
okay,
I appreciate it,
sure.
thanks.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Purchasing. Other business, is there any other business the council would like to share? Wow. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to let constituents know that on next week, May the 21st, on our agenda is a resolution, and it's just a contract with Orange Grove for our recycling. I didn't want anybody to get confused and thinking that it's the sale or relocation of Orange Grove Center, Glenwood Center to Orange Grove. That's not what this is about. It's strictly the lease agreement with the city and Orange Grove about recycling, and that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Now we move on to committee reports. Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
She hadn't hit a button yet.
We began our budget process today. The budget notebook was handed out. It was put online. The city got it the same time we got it. So please look at the budget. We're being very transparent with the process. You'll see everything we're doing. Next week, beginning at 10 o'clock and for about 4 or 5 Tuesdays after that, we'll be discussing educating ourselves on the budget so that we can better inform our constituents. Any problems or concerns that you have, please contact your council representative, and he or she will be happy to work with you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Byrd. Councilwoman Coonrod. Hit your button, Councilwoman.
It's on.
You got it?
Thank you, Chair. So I said that like 3 times. But we had a committee report, YFD today, and Jason presented on education.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Gilbert. Vice Chair Henderson. Councilman Ledford. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting where we went over agenda items for the next 2 weeks, and we also proclaimed Public Works Week. And the Public Works folks have a great week planned. There are lots of activities, especially that rodeo. If you get a chance to see it, it's pretty interesting. And then we also have another Public Works and Transportation meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mitchell. Councilman Smith.
No report, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, sir. Did you want to say something, Councilman Byrd?
Yes, if you don't mind, real quick, 1 second.
Sure, absolutely, sir.
I to the council and to the constituents as well. During the break, I got some text messages just relying to some things that was talked about at 1:30 when it comes to addressing city employees and other people that work for the city, whether it's staff, whether it's supervisors, or whatever the case may be. Councilwoman Coonrod brought this up earlier today, and some people called to just piggyback off that and speak to me on the situation, and it brought to my recollection that, I definitely need constituent help. I need regular workers' help for the city, and I need supervisors' help for the city. when it comes to just doing my job, because I have to hear from everyone, the people that's hands-on, the people in the supervisor positions, especially even when it comes to doing budget time, because you want to pass a budget and do things and put things in proper perspective when it comes to running our city. And it just is very heartening to me that if employees or people do feel that they can't talk to us. And I just wanted to even talk to you, Phil, that is it any way that when a person or city employee is told that they can't conversate with us and getting reprimanded, is there anything in our charter and our code for that to where an employee can't speak to us?
The administration has control over employees normally. There are provisions in the code regarding whistleblower activities where they can be reported to the auditor's office or to the city attorney's office. Both of those are available in the code.
Okay, those are, so, but to see a person that would be reprimanded, even I noted one conversation that Chip had today with Jason, and he was explaining about he wanted to be considered a mega center. And Jason just merely said yes. And then I talked to when I talked to him in an email conversation, I was told that I need to follow proper protocol when making a suggestion on something that I was championing for. So it just seems like sometimes it can get miscued when we're talking to whether it's an employee or whether it's a supervisor when it comes to the city. And I just want to know my lane, because a lot of times Councilman Coonrod today referred to bullying. You know, I don't, if it's a situation where people are scared to talk to us or the morale gets low or people feel like they can get in trouble for speaking to us, I think that's an issue. And we need to address it with this body to make sure that, you know, we can do our job effectively, because a lot of times we're not at these facilities, or we're not with the police, we're not with the YFD, we're not with Public Works. And sometimes these employees help us do our job a lot better because they give us these informations to make sure that we can direct our resources and direct our time the right way. So by you saying that today, is nothing in the charter, nothing to where, but the staff can tell the people or the employees not to talk to us, and they have to uphold that.
You have a right to talk to any of your constituents at any point in time on here as a council member. In their work that they do, if that's interfering with their work duties, then their supervisors would have some authority in connection with that.
If it's interfering with their work duties?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Now comes the time, with everybody's good? Okay. Recognition for persons wishing to address the council on 9 agenda items. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the rules?
Sure. At the end of every council meeting, the chair can recognize persons of the public who wish to address the council. These are your rules. You have to come up to the microphone up front here, and that's the only place you can be recognized for that purpose. You can't have more than 3 minutes to speak. The speaker can only address the council upon matters within the council's authority, which are legislative and quasi-judicial matters. Can't use any vulgar, obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others. And please address your comments to the council as a whole, not to individual council members. And you can't speak more than 2 times in any 30-day time period. So please come forward if anybody has any questions.
And before they do, sir, I would respectfully ask if you keep that sign down, particularly during this segment, because we really do want to focus on what the constituents has to say to us, and that sign is, quite frankly, distracting. So I would appreciate if you would hold it down. Thank you. Now, whoever would like to speak before the council, please come forward.
Ronnie Ray, 613 Pan Gap Road, Lookout Valley. I just wanted to say, a few years ago, I set on a path to become a responsible citizen, to offer solutions along with problems that I see in our city. And along that path, I attended the Citizens Police Academy. And the good thing is I graduated. There's no test to it, so it's pretty simple. I just wanted to take this opportunity to encourage my fellow citizens to also take and participate in these future classes that they have every year. It's our responsibility to together to make our city a better, safe, low-tax city, according to what I heard in the news, with no a tax increase. So I also, as the father of a former policeman in another city and state, I somewhat knew what to expect, yet still observing from another sideline gave me a better glimpse into why his mother and I stayed in a constant prayer vigil for his safety so that he could return home to his wife and children. We made that as well a corporate prayer for all of our police officers. In an 8-week course proctored by dedicated police officers whose desire is to return home safely to their families while still protecting our citizenry without regard to where their social status may be, it's a difficult job. I would caution you, one thing I did learn in that course as well, that they're extremely cordial and nice, but there's things that they'll teach you, and the front door, that's a good door to come in. The back door, you want to be careful opening that door for somebody else because they might shoot you. I learned that as well. I survived, but they are urgently requesting our minority individuals to become police officers. And I would encourage them as well, not only the minority, but anyone that wants to be a policeman. If you are a minority, please try to go out there and tell them Ronnie Ray sent you. You understand that, don't you, Darren? Yes, sir. With regards to the budget coming up, crap. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to solidify Mr. Ray's story, during the police academy, we run through a scenario where we're put through the course, and I think that's what he was referring to when coming in the back door. We're all put through a series of scenarios where we run through, and I think you and I both experienced the same result, so, which was not a good outcome. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Good evening, Council. My name is Stephen Russell.
Good evening.
I am in the SEIU Local 205. I'm a union steward for the Department of Finance and Administration. And we are here because we want to see that in this time that our city employees are treated fairly, and we would like to see that we have a minimum wage of $15 an hour. We feel this is the right time to ask for this because with the work study that's being done to compare other cities with what we're doing, we feel that we're underpaid compared to a lot of other municipalities and employers. We also, the mayor has spoken about, the need for increasing wages in Chattanooga, and we want to make sure that the city employees are part of that discussion. So I hope I can speak for the SEIU in saying that we would love to collaborate with you individually or as a body to, see that we can make that happen. We know that, $15 an hour sounds, pretty up there, but my understanding is the city of Memphis and Shelby County recently passed that themselves, and so we feel like if they can do it, Chattanooga can do it as well. Because we want to be competitive with other municipalities, and we want to make sure that the talent and the skills that we have in the city are being kept. And we think that we're not out of line in asking that, and we really would look forward to collaborating with you. And I would love to have, if anyone had any questions, you know, I can do my best to answer. I wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but if anyone from the council would like to, mention any concerns that we could bring back to the leadership of SEIU, I'd be happy to do that for you.
Thank you.
No questions? Okay.
Is there anybody else would like to speak before the council?
Hi, I'm not a public speaker, but this has feel heavy on my heart as a American and a taxpayer. That's why I don't speak about it. So a couple years ago, I was here coincidentally for a tax sale to learn how that worked. Delinquent, there was a house that I wanted, I didn't get it. But before all that started, there was a government official that came up, lived on Hamill Road. He wanted to retire. He said, you know, I used to be one of y'all, I'm going to Florida, and I want to put my house on Airbnb and make some money. Y'all approved that. I never thought anything of it. I have since got a letter saying I can't on the street. I live on the same street as this man, and I don't understand how y'all can say, okay, you can, and you can't. To me, that's discrimination. Or you live in this area, so you get to profit from it. You don't, tough luck. So I need that explained to me, how my neighbor down the street can have special approval and I cannot make an extra income. Airbnb pays the city of Chattanooga taxes. This pays the whole state of Tennessee, and last year they paid approximately $25 million. If y'all open this up to everybody, a lot of retired people make money that way, extra money that way. I need an explanation. She is also not in the magic zone. Again, I feel it's 100% discrimination. So, and I'm in Hickson. Do you want to take up a minute?
Respectfully, my name is Jennifer Smith. I live in District 6, and I also own a house on Stringer's Ridge, which is District 1. When I approached the city about putting my house on the short-term rental market, at that time, the city said, we're not ready, we don't have a plan, call us back. I was negligent, I didn't call soon enough, and when I did reach out, I was told that my district had already voted against it. So I didn't know when that vote happened. Carol Burtz is my council person, and I'd like to apologize to Ms. Burtz because I erroneously stated that I had contacted her office. I did not. I did contact Mr. Henderson's office regarding my other house on Stringer's Ridge, but I just know that I didn't have a voice when that was voted on. I agree with my friend. I don't see how it's just and fair. I do know that similar communities such as Hill City and St. Elmo have seen their property values increase substantially since they're allowed within the zone. So I would like to respectfully just ask, how do we make our voice heard? Is this still on the table? And what do we need to do to be represented in this? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to say, I'll be happy to answer your question for you as soon as we're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. What's the pleasure of the council? We are adjourned.